Evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 2nd Town Council Business Meeting, May 2nd, 2012. We will start, as always, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Like there was a race going on out there to see who could finish the pledge first.
I think we had indivisibles.
So, councilors, if it would be all right with all of you, we're going to allow the our guests from Link Together to go first, if that would work.
Yep, fine with it.
Everyone all right with that?
Yep.
Go ahead. Okay, where do I go? Okay.
Is there a stand or something?
Hello, I am Sam. Thank you for allowing us to present to the community and what we have been working on this past school year. We have been very busy. Kate Geyer is next. Done.
We came to the front of the council last year to request permission to hold a lemonade stand every Wednesday last summer from 11 to 1. We made $213 with 26 cents from the lemonade stand to put flowers in the park. We would like to request permission again this year to hold lemonade stands every Wednesday so that we can continue work on the gardens. Paige Bosworth is next.
We made $53 on crafts that we sold during Old Home Weekend. We had soups and cookies in a jar available. We sold the remainder of them at program at the elementary school and set up booths in front of the Shaw's and Market Basket. Maddie Geyer is next.
We held our second annual penny harvest and reached our goal of $210 to buy a deluxe dry eraser teaching easel for Miss Stowe, the art teacher at Newmarket Elementary School. We presented the check to her at the January 19th school board meeting. We actually raised $320 this year. The remainder will be donated to a food bank in Stratham. Gabriella Medor is next.
Make Your Mark Week, which is the week of October 17th to the 21st. It was a busy week for us. We came in front of the town council and received a proclamation artificially declaring that week Make Your Mark Week in Newmarket. We held the grand opening of the park on October 18th at 4:30. Invitations were sent out to the governor, senators, town representatives, town council, and school board. We planted a pin oak tree in the park that was donated by Stratham Circle Nursery so that Newmarket can be a tree city 2 years in a row. Caitlin Temple is next.
We worked on and submitted a grant to State Farm for $250 to hold a family literacy night during Make Your Mark Week. As families enter the building, there will be tables set up around the building for a book swap so families can exchange gently read books. 5 stations will be set up around the school with an important person from our town reading a book. There will also be 3 easels set up around the building with a pad of lined paper and markers. When we investigated the needs in our community, we found Newmarket Elementary School was identified as a school in need of improvement of the area of reading during 2008 and 2009 school year. We feel that our project would benefit the community because it would provide another opportunity to promote reading in our school and help our community meet their goals of improving their academic achievements. Our book swap will allow children to exchange books that they have already read and do not want anymore for new books that they can read and can possibly exchange at their next book swap. Unfortunately, we did not receive this grant. Skyland Anderson is next.
We put on a Thanksgiving play for the residents of the Pines on November 21st and for the Head Start program at the Recreation Center on November 15th. We did a great job and the residents asked us to return and do a spring play for them. Katie Morgan is next.
We worked with Janice Rosa on the honor trees at the Pocket Park and the bandstand. We made stars and decorated them to honor past and present service members. Black stars presented members that were prisoners of war, a gold star presented members that were killed in action, and a blue star presented those that served or are presently serving our country. Mia Smith is next.
In the spirit of giving, we made a snowman ornament and a thank you card for each volunteer that serves a committee for the town. We know how much time it takes to volunteer, and we wanted to thank the residents that take the time out of their schedules to volunteer for our town. Jaden Moore is next.
We are working on PSAs about wastewater management. This was the theme of National Environmental Week last year. We made a commitment to do some educational PSAs for Channel 13 and ran out of time last year, so they are fulfilling that commitment now. Riley Andruski is next.
Star Wars Carnival. We have worked on the floor plans and activities that we would like to hold at the Star Wars Carnival. We have made a list of supplies as well as donations. The final step before presenting the project to our board is working out the budget. Thank you for allowing us to present our projects to you. Do you have any questions for us?
Counselors. No questions? Well, first of all, thank you all very much for coming in. That was great. It's awesome to hear you doing stuff on wastewater management. I think if you could help the EPA get schooled on that, that would be great for the town taxpayers. So what I heard inside of that was a request for the lemonade stand to continue for this year. So I would be willing to entertain a motion. Councilor Levy.
Oh, I
you have a
had
question
one
first?
quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
Did someone bring up the fact that they had applied for a grant and they didn't get the grant?
No, we didn't.
You didn't get the grant, or you didn't bring it up? Did I miss that?
The grant.
How much was the grant for?
It was for $250
And what was it going to be used for? Just
for our family literacy night, to help the school work on their, the grant was a State Farm grant for $250 to work on the family literacy night, which would help the school work on their reading, helping the kids improve their reading skills.
and how did I don't know if it's appropriate, but when I heard that, I'd be happy to entertain if you want to contact my business. I would be happy to hear what you've got to say. I thought I heard somewhere in there that they didn't get a grant. I just didn't want to hear it was for like $35,000 or something.
Is your email address on the website?
Pardon me?
Is your email address on the website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I
Scary
will get in
Levy.
touch with you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor LaBranche.
I would like to make a motion to allow the Link Together group continue with the lemonade stand on Wednesdays, as they did last year, and also waive any fees that may be required based on our current ordinances that we have in place.
Second.
Gladly seconded. Motion to second. Any discussion? Administrator, the vote.
Council Wright.
Aye.
Council Levy.
Aye.
Council LaBranche.
Aye.
Council Carmichael.
Aye.
Council Bentley.
Aye.
Chairman Nazaro.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Yeah, well, I'll do it after the kids. Thank you all so much for coming in today. It is awesome to see the future of Newmarket so active in civics. One day, if things go really, really poorly, you could be sitting up here.
I wish that on.
No, you're all doing such amazing things. It's great, and I know your leadership is amazing as well. So thank you for everything you do for this community. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Stay for the meeting. So, thanks again, everyone.
Good job.
So for the record, Councilor Zink is on a family vacation and will not be here today. So, 2 in a year, must be nice. So next item on the agenda is public hearing on ordinance number 2011-2012-02, regulating the licensure of a stand located on public property within the downtown. Is there anyone for public comment on that? I will open up the public comment at 7:10. Anyone? Seeing no public comment, I will close the public comment at 7:10. The next up on the agenda is a public hearing for resolution number 2011-2012-23, closeout of new village project and withdrawal of $14,612 from sewer capital reserve fund for final payment costs. I will open the public comment at 7:11. You're a talkative bunch tonight. Anyone for public comment? Seeing no one for public comment on that, I will close public comment at 7:11. Next is public forum, non-agenda items only. Is Mr. Porterada and Mr. Allen? Come on. Oh, no, Mr. Porterada first. Then he had his hand up first, sorry. Come on.
Just put around at 177 Exeter Road, Newmarket. I wasn't going to come tonight, but I read a lot of these letters to the editor, and I read about editorials about our town and everything else. I wonder if you people read it too.
I do. I can tell you that, and I know the other counselors do as well.
And the thing, I want to ask this question now. Do you go through the town budget, the employees, payroll, budget, the money and everything, what they get and everything?
So when we go through the budget cycle, we
Yeah.
go through all the elements of the budget. I do not recall this time around
What I'm,
really going through person by person, no. But
yeah, because there's, I'm trying to ask the question because I researched some of the school budget. And also, when I went to the school budget meeting, hearing in the auditorium, I wished to speak there, and I was denied speaking at that budget hearing by the chairman of the budget committee. And I think that was wrong, because I believe I have the freedom of speech if I wish to speak about it, because somebody stood up before that, mentioned my name about something, about how low or how high the tax rates are. Then I wanted to speak then, but Brian Hart told me I couldn't. You think that's right?
I don't know the specifics of that
Oh.
I don't know exactly what happened, but I will say that philosophically, I believe everyone has the First Amendment right to free speech, and that you should have the ability to speak as a resident of the town.
Yeah, 'cause I'm going to tell a little story. When I was 17 years old, and I enlisted in the service, World War II, this gentleman stood up there when we went to boot camp and told us what we were fighting for. And part of it was that. And but the things I wanted to say at that school meeting was, and I got the records on that. What do you hear about this bonus plan that they were going to give the teachers?
I can't comment. That's more of a school board issue than a town council issue.
I know, but you brought up the school buying the land and everything else. You approved it, you voted for it.
The land purchase, what we approved was the moving of open source funds over to the school district to allow them to do it as they wish for the purpose of purchasing land. That's the only item that we've ever discussed around the school, and it was more around the discussion of how we're going to expend open source funds, not necessarily how the school is going to go about expending it.
Because I think, you people should have some right to speak about that too. I know you don't have that kind of a charter on your thing or something like that, but the problem is, some of those bonuses I think were given illegally. Because I looked at the contract and read that contract, and it was not going to be retroactive by giving $6,000 bonus to those above the 15th stage. It was not retroactive, because I got the contract when I read it there. So how do you correct it?
I highly encourage you to make those statements in public forum with the school board. We just don't have, we're just not in the legal position to say anything or do anything about that.
You know, fair is fair. I'm just saying fair is fair. Do
I
it
agree with
right. You know what I mean? Because I worked all my life and we did it the proper way. And I just say I'm not against the teachers, but I'm against the way that's being done. I think we got to be careful with these contracts from now on. Now, I don't know who represents you people. Somebody on the council represents it when you talk to the union people and everything else?
We talk to the police union, not with the school union, so we don't have anything to do with the negotiation with the teachers, only when we
You
deal
do
with
it
the
at
police.
town?
Say again?
You do have some control in the town to talk with the union?
We,
New
the only,
contracts?
we talk with the police union. That's, when we're in union negotiations, that's what we talk to. With the teachers' negotiations, we do not get involved with.
But do you go through all salaries on these employees?
I will say that we go through the budget for the town side, but we don't even look at the school.
It would be the budget committee.
Yeah, the budget committee looks at everything in toto.
Usually when you get a digits total salary. Now, I got a nice, from the finance man there, he gave me a nice detail of everything, including the buyout of their insurance. And some people don't take the insurance, you have to pay them and buy them out.
Right.
And there's a lot of overtime. And I'm just saying that I think you're gonna start finding how to privatize some of this work, because we have almost 200 part-time and full-time employees for the town. Is that correct?
Some odd number around that.
In total, we probably have 200 employees, but there are only 52 full-time employees.
But you still have almost 200, no matter what.
Correct, but you have to remember that a lot of those part-time employees are people who are men and women who serve on the fire department, the ambulance
I don't
corps.
want to talk about the fire department. Fire
Right, but
department's okay with me. I'm just talking about the rest of it.
But those 200 employees, when it looks like
That's
there's
what it looks like.
200, it's because people who are serving part-time in the fire department are listed in that list as well.
Correct.
Because I have a list here of, when I see a certain person, I'm not mentioning no names. But I mean, I see everything under the sun here. I see accrual vacation, $4,338. That's a lot of money. That means they can hold their vacation back and back, right?
No.
They can, well, why is it on there?
I
4,000 and
I don't know what you're looking at specifically, but the employees are only allowed to carry over 1 year's worth of vacation. So if an employee on a yearly basis has 3 weeks vacation, he or she can carry 3 weeks over into next year, and that's the total limit. So at any one point in time, the employee would only have the number of weeks that they're entitled to that they would carry over from year to year.
Wouldn't
They
you
have
say
to burn those
$4,000,
other 3
over
weeks.
$4,000,
I have no idea what that all represents, Mr. Porterata, so I can't speak to it.
and then also there's sick time. I see some of that sick time, almost $3,000 or more. They carry that over?
Employees are allowed to accrue up to 90 days of sick time, and that maxed out at that point. So, and that takes up to 7 years for an employee to accrue 90 days of sick time. But if they don't accrue in 91, 92, 93, it's maxed out at 90.
Well, what do I see? I see sick time, some $1,000, sick full-time. I mean, I see so many different things on this category, it's unbelievable.
Would it help if we actually had you sat down with the finance director or a member of the administration and actually went through line by
People
line?
in town know what's going on too, because I mean, I would hope that some more people would speak up, at these things, because I hear it they come to me, they tell me this and that, and I say, well, why don't you come down and say your piece or something like that? I think more people ought to come.
Matt, did you have something to say to that, or we just want?
I was just offering to come up and explain.
Do you want to come take a look at it real quick? I don't want to spend too long, but
Well,
he deserves to have his answer.
Well, he gave it to me. I think he did a good job, because I've never seen that one before like that. It opened my eyes.
Yeah, okay. This is how much this person was paid for holiday, because they earned holiday time. This is what they were paid for part-time. When they took vacation, they were paid this amount of money for vacation. This right here is if they were sick for that day, they were paid for sick time. If they worked part-time hours, this is how much they were paid right here. All right, so each one of these items that you see is how much they were being paid rather than being accrued.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see the point there, I mean, because I see some of these are really
Yeah.
high. I'm saying they're really high.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this here is, why I'm saying is, all these things are added on to their pension. That's why we have a problem with the high pension spiking and padding. I don't want to go against the police department, but I'm just saying, they got to give a little bit, this union, because it's going to hurt this town. We're going to be taxed like there's nothing tomorrow because the state's not going to give you money. They're not going to be stuck with this bill. They'll go back to the town on it. I'm just saying, be prepared, because I think I read about today that the state of Illinois is almost bankrupt. And that's all.
Beyond almost.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying. I just thought I'd bring it up. Do you people look at all these things?
So that's the job of administration to ensure that people are taking leave or vacation within the limits of what they're allowed?
Yeah, because federal employees, when they earn their salary, just their salary, if they make overtime, they don't count that as part of their pension.
Yes,
That's what I'm saying. Why?
it is.
Well, go ahead.
It is.
Oh, all right, I'm just saying that
It is.
I think people ought to come to this meeting, and
But-
I don't like to write in the paper this and that. I like to come here and talk it right out face to face.
We appreciate that.
Okay.
He really hasn't.
Just want to say one thing. Ms. Periotta, one other thing, because someone else asked me recently about the amount of employees. Becky, if you could, how many people work the polls, you know, that one time a year they get that? 20, 50? Just roughly.
20.
Is that's what I told the person I was asked about. Again, it looks like, you know, there's 20 other employees, they work 1 or 2 days a year for $15, $20, and they're actually the ones that help count the votes and register anyone. So I just want to say it, the number sounds huge, and when you start breaking it down, that some of them are there 1 day a year. It's-
Because, I mean, in my generation, our generation, you know, we work for private companies. And once we retired from the company, they let us have a year and a half of the health insurance, and that was it. But we had an idea of, on the IRS, we can put $2,000 a year for our pension, you know, I think, to supplement our money. I mean, I'm talking like that. Now, these private companies couldn't give what the towns and cities and the government gave. So where are they? I had to travel all over Asia to train them over there. Maybe someday they'll come back and train us. No, it's no joke. It's getting serious.
I know.
Because I'm just saying that. A lot of the older people talk to me about it, you know, especially Martha. I don't know if you know Martha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Allen.
I'm going to correct if you,
Name and address, sorry.
Bert Allen, 56 Smith Garrison Road.
Thank you.
One of the reasons why that he's getting lost on it is the selectmen don't have a right on the, they're called collective bargaining units. They have exclusive right of bargaining, both the school union employees and the Teamsters, which are your police, okay, which are also AFL-CIO. They are exclusively out of Concord, New Hampshire, and they have an exclusive contract, which is on the web of 8 pages long, that there's no way that the selectmen could negotiate with them. They've got it just about locked up to do what they want, increased price, except they kind of goofed in Barnstead, New Hampshire, when the selectmen voted to discontinue the police department, which broke the contract, which means they had to go back to cycle no union. It's basically union breaking inside the town. So he's partially right what he's saying. He just doesn't know who to focus his attention on, which is the Teamsters 633 out of Manchester and Concord. And until you get the collective contract annulled, they've basically got you by the throat. On to other subjects, you know, Barnstead showed how it could be done with the legal counsel. Selectmen stepped forward. They wiped out the police department, paid the sheriff's department to run for a year. They'll renegotiate the contract. Union steps back in line. They bring in a new contract. drastic means to do it, but can be done. All right, other subjects here. Newmarket Industrial Park, I noticed on the TIF when there was some shows going on here, that everybody thinks there needs to be a bridge from Newfields. You've got a right of entrance at the end of Forbes Lane, and the building, at the end of the building adjacent to the property of Vinall, spelling of V-Y-N-all. That's your crossing point there, and instead of the town looking towards the past and wants to look towards the future, they might look to put a train station in there, couple it with the 12-inch natural gas that's on the other side of the railroad track, where the government's so pushy on putting natural gas in, and put a natural gas station for tractor trailers and buses to fill up, make it a central hub like what they did in Maine, and you'd have one of the biggest parking rides on the line. Good use, 108, keeps the traffic swinging in, traffic swinging in there. There's 90 feet to the tracks there, 90 feet on the other, and you got all flat land between the two hills. Plenty of area. There's a use, throw it out there, somebody can run with it. I would hope on other people were talking about the money that the selectmen do take a stance and make sure the town has their name on that deed, because it's town money. It's also considered an asset against their books, better an asset on our books, which offsets some of these numbers that you guys are doing. Just protect the town in negotiations. I had also seen that the Budget Committee had passed the buck to the selectmen on ways to cut or generate money. Well, a lot of the municipalities across the country, California especially, which is the 5th largest economy, the fire departments are charging for responses through the insurance company on the property side of your insurance policy. You have to carry up to $25,000 here in the state of New Hampshire. You also, your auto clubs of AAA, Cross Country, and Allstate have side policies on membership holders, standard membership holders, which are $10,000. Those charges are, they can be accepted all the time by going through them, having a person bill for the services, up to $7,200 a fire on your autos or pulling a boat. We're not billing for those services for the fire department. That could be more income coming in that the selectmen are looking for. Apparently, it has to be a selectman idea coming down to the Budget Committee for them to work on it. So I'm putting it out to you. On nitrates, everybody's our education of NOAA here. When large groups of fish go upstream, you picture taking the dam down, you've got all these shade and these smelt and everything going upstream. A fish breeds out ammonia with bacteria, which your duckweed, you see the green stuff up there, which is duckweed, grows. It creates a nitrate. So if you're suddenly going to put all those fish up on the other side of the ladder with no damn picture there, it's basically a test. It's like dumping alcohol test in a drug test and saying, gee, why did I fail? The fields around the bay have changed. They used to be fields. You have clay on the bottom, 3 inches of grass to absorb your nitrates before it hits the water. We now have trees, and the roots are below the clay base, which don't absorb any nitrates before it runs into the water. Only way you can cut down on nitrates is a 3,000 foot, like a lot of the water districts out in California side have done, is 3,000 feet to any water source. You're not allowed to use chemical fertilizers, 10, 10, 10. You could have an ordinance, but you have to create an ordinance first for a nitrate ban. Make sure people put matting down on the lawns, put mulching blades on part of the year, change over to straight cut blades. Put that into the ground to stop the flow of the nitrates to the water on a high runoff. That would maybe make some of these tests that failed passed. It's a heck of a lot better than $50 million for a plant that's going to have to be built at the rate they're talking to pass the nitrates. So they're shooting us in the foot by saying we want all these schools of fish up there. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. No schools of fish up there, because aquaponics, any reading and research you do on aquaponics tells you that the systems the fish make the ammonia, that they breathe it out, that turns to nitrate. So if you're trying to pass an alcohol test, don't dump 151 rum in the test result, it won't come back positive. I didn't know if any guys had done that research on the nitrates or not, and they aren't exactly telling you. Because I kind of spied a little bit with the NOAA, and he kind of left out our endangered species lamprey eel here. You want that up there, floating through the water?
We have worked with multiple scientists from UNH and other agencies around the nitrate issue, so we are in ongoing conversations around that.
Well, there's just other agencies. You probably don't realize that the New England cottontail rabbit is now an endangered species on this bay here. And they can't grow with any tree growth over 5 years old. All the trees have grown up around the bay. So they've declared that an endangered species. What's going to happen when they go and slap us mandatory federally down to state and make the towns responsible for clear cutting basically to the water and not having the ordinances in effect to take care of the nitrates? The rabbits can't live with trees that is 50 and 60 feet tall. UNH has a department over there who's putting out the pamphlets for it. They're trying to replenish the ones down at Shemashak, Durham Line. They were, when I was a kid, down on Smith Garrison, they were, every bush you kicked, they were there. There aren't too many around. There's only a few on the other side of Bay Road. So it tells you, there used to be lots over here in the TIF. There aren't any. I don't know of any over there. And it's now an endangered species. So a little bit of looking ahead on this nitrates. They have an awful lot of good ideas over the UNH. We had a committee that would look at some of the ideas and bring them here. Might save us a lot of money in the future. That dam really scares me, taking that dam down. That would really create a nitrate problem with shade or alewives running up in all the ammonia they would make. We won't pass a single test. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Any other public comment? Sir. Name and address for the camera.
My name is G. Philip Blatzis. I live in 49 Winter Hill Road in Goffstown, New Hampshire. And
real quick, do we have a habit of allowing non-residents?
do you have a restriction against
Do we have to make a motion for that?
I would imagine so. We've never,
we did it.
since I've been here, we've never.
Yeah, we did
had
it when the gentleman from Durham
residents
came
speak.
and spoke. We had to last year.
I have no problem with it.
Any councilor have a problem with it? No? All right.
Thank you. I made a little bullet list here to help you out. I have a few points to make, and I'll cover other things in the beginning. As I said, my name is G. Philip Blatzis. I worked for the Department of Revenue for 32 years. I retired in 2008. I served probably in just about every capacity you can imagine and retired as commissioner in 2008. I even served as an expert witness on the Claremont suit on property taxes, so I think I have a little bit of a depth of knowledge when it comes to property taxes. I've been asked over a little while about some friends in the town about the TIF districts. And they had been asking me questions about, what should we be looking for to da-da-da-da-da. And I've been answering the questions, and I've been watching the replies as a favor to them. I have no dog in this fight, none at all, and I have no connection to this. However, I've been trying to ask these questions, and they don't know the follow-up, and they don't know the context, and I figured, hey, I better take a trip down to Newmarket and explain myself to them, because this is hard on them, and it's probably hard on you, because you're getting these questions that seemingly come out of the blue from somebody who does know about this stuff. There are all of the questions have been surrounding the financial aspects and TIF administration aspects of this. And I would encourage you to look at some place like the town of Peterborough. They win awards for their TIF districts, and they have an excellent plan, and they have an excellent financial plan, and they have an excellent program, and they walk you through it. They even do surveys of the citizens to make sure they understand. OEP, the Office of Energy and Planning, also has an excellent document about how to operate a TIF, and explains all the nuances of it and what you should be considering. Yes, it is a little bit dated, but there's only one law change, and as we go through this, I'll cover that particular change. This has been coupled, as I listen to it, with a lack of hard numbers about what you're talking about, and I hear you about transferring money, closing TIF districts, and doing all of these other things. When you take these two things together, it would take Solomon to figure out, what you really have to do. You really don't have a good basis in this, and I'll cover some of the reasons why on actual administration. The numbers are changing or fluid, or it appears when you listen to this. And there's a lot of questions about it.
Clarify what numbers you're speaking to.
The numbers that have been brought forward on the spreadsheets, they've changed.
Which spreadsheets?
The spreadsheets about the TIF district.
The valuation?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, all of them, but, and I'll cover some of those as we go through that. First, let's start out in 1998. They passed it. It was Articles 7 and 8. I actually have copies of them I was given. And it was adopted on March 19th, 1998. The requirement was placed on the town. One of the most obvious being the bonding authority authorized by this article will not be exercised, and the town has secured a firm agreement with a developer sufficient to amortize the bonded debt, as well as the total amount to be bonded. The Town Ordinance 9802 authorized this new TIF district May 6th, 1998. And they did it based on a conceptual plan. Nobody's actually seen the actual plan. I've got a copy of the conceptual plan. The actual plan is actually outlined in RSA 162K. It's very specific what's included. You can find good guidance in the OEP and also by looking at the town of Peterborough, what should have been in there. But all anybody's been able to produce, although I've seen numerous documents requesting it, is the conceptual plan. The conceptual plan, which the TIF financing plan is based on. In other words, you have a conceptual plan, that goes to a financing plan, and also goes to a program. Three things going on here. It's actually the program, which basically describes the overview of what you're going to do with the TIF district, and the financial plan underneath that, which basically is very specific and tells you what you're going to do and how much you're going to pay for it going into the future. It's a budget. That's what it is. And becomes the basis for the budget that you should be looking at, because if you look at the conceptual plan, it put a burden on you to approve all of the spending, and that any overage goes right to the general fund. It's right in the conceptual plan. Can't miss it. I have a copy of it if you need to look at it. It should be noted that both of these plans are required in RSA 162K. So not only are they carefully delineated, they're required. They're the startup of the TIF district. That's how you actually create the budget and everything else. So there is some question in there about what's going on because nobody's seen the plan. And it's supposed to be what the thing. Now, the actual plan was required by your town administration vote that took place that I talked about earlier, was required to be submitted to you on July 31st, 1998. Well, that's not online, so I couldn't find it. Nobody actually has a copy of that, which was supposed to be. And that, by the way, that has been followed up in a lot of the TIF change documents. It actually cites in there the plan that was supposed to be submitted on that date. None of them say actually submitted or actually received. They all say supposed to be. So the actual plan was supposed to be in there, and we do know that the actual plan, based upon your original passage, is based on the conceptual plan, because that's right in when you enabled it. So therefore, if the amount of taxes collected exceeds the bond payments, the excess goes into the general fund, clearly written in the conceptual plan. Conceptual plan is the basis for the actual plan. So even if you don't know it, even if you don't have it, that's the basis, because the actual plan was not supposed to deviate from the conceptual plan. So you have a chain here that even if you don't have it, that. I'm not sure how this all applies in the end when you don't have the basic two documents of running a TIF. I've actually never heard of that before. But it is there, and that's what the law says, and nobody's been able to produce it. I've seen a number of written requests to the town to get it. I think it was also requested from the town auditor at one point. The other thing that's missing in all this is a duration of the plan. If you look at every other one, and if you look at RSA 162K says, you must have a duration. You cannot have a TIF that exists forever. It has to, in the initial come up, when you initially bring it up, it has to have a duration. You right now have probably the only infinite TIFs in the state that have no end date. So I would suggest to you that somehow you have to correct that. Also, when we look at this, you have to do an annual report. Wait a second. An annual report. Now, it was actually a letter from the town administrator and the administrator of the TIF district to an attorney. And the annual report, if you read 162K, is very specific. It must be in your annual report. There is no, can put it here, can put it there. It says black and white. It must be in the annual report. Remember that this is also the basis for your budget and for your spending. This is how you're supposed to be appropriating money when you appropriate money for a TIF district. It must be in there. What was actually written was that you have a spreadsheet and the audited financials are in there. Remember, the plan and the financing plan are forward-looking documents. They tell you, this is where we are, this is what we're going to spend every year. The audit is a backward-looking document. It's looking at what you spent, not what you're going to spend. So they're two opposite items. Then it talks about a spreadsheet that was distributed to the town council, and
What is, this talks about a spreadsheet? And sir, again, could we,
Pardon?
like, when you say it talks about, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the letter that the administrator wrote.
To whom?
To Attorney Hogan. If you don't have a copy of it, I do, and can probably give it to you.
Attorney Hogan.
Yes, it was a letter written on a right-to-know law to the town about the TIF.
98? No, we're talking 10 years ago.
Okay. 9 years ago?
No, Scott gave, that was,
Whoa.
Mrs. Quacks brought that to Ed a couple of years ago, I think. There was a list of questions.
Okay. Sir, I understand that you seem to have a lot of documentation there. We can't have add-in.
I won't go through that
Thank you
then.
very
I'll
much.
just keep going. All right, so it talks about, furthermore, on an annual basis, the administration updates, this is from your reply, the TIF project performance spreadsheet, which covers all activity from 1999 to the present. You actually have seen the one that you produce right now. And the old ones look pretty similar. And it lists who's distributed to basically the selectmen and within the town hall. That's not the annual report. It is extremely specific. It must be in the town's annual report. So you have a little deficiency there, all right? Looking further, okay, on the spreadsheet titled Black Bear Performance to Date, 6/2000, Mr. Angel, that's yours?
No idea, you're spewing numbers, I don't know.
Yeah, where's this going? Could we just like summate this? Because, I mean, it's been 10, 15, almost
I think
15
what we've
minutes.
outlined so far is you're not following the law. You're not following the TIF law. There is some question whether you have a real TIF if you haven't enabled it, if you haven't actually passed the TIF plan and the program. All right, if you go on to that, all right, you're showing surpluses being held, but nobody can show a vote with that. That even goes back to your forensic audit. If you're holding money, all right, if you're appropriating something, your forensic audit said you should have the background. And as a matter of fact, it talks specifically about one expenditure in the Black Bear TIF, and it also talks about spending on capital projects that wasn't gone through the town council, which is another one coming up. I think more important there, when the Black Bear was established on May 6, 1998, RSA 162K read, all right, that the boundary could not be changed for 5 years. You had a 5-year window in which you could change the boundary to the TIF, and after that, you couldn't change the boundary to the TIF. All right? That expired on May 6, 2003. On February 18, 2004, you changed the boundary. After the 5-year period had expired, all right, now that law changed, all right, in, I believe, July 31st, 2005. You made a change to the TIF district, and it's very material on what property is in there when it was strictly prohibited by law. You were outside the 5, and they did not change that to infinite till about 6-8 months after your change. I actually have a copy of the law. It's Chapter 181 of 2004. So you made a change to the TIF district that absolutely is not allowed. Are you correct for that? Furthermore, in 2004-07, you authorized bonding to buy what I believe is called the Wilson property of $600,000, $606,000. The borrowing was an actual vote to bond. The bonding required the signature of a developer. You obviously didn't have the signature of a developer, or there's none indicated anywhere. And the town council authorized a bonding. This turns out later on as a transfer from the general fund to the TIF to pay for this. There is no record of that vote. As a matter of fact, the town wrote a letter to Melanson and Company about that very issue, asking him to differentiate the difference between the firehouse and the TIF purchase. And what they pointed out in their letter coming back was the TIF paid it back. But what they also pointed out in there, none of the documentation they had requested about the financing plan, the vote of the town council to actually approve the loan from the town to the TIF was available. It was not provided, and actually told the auditor that it was lost. I don't know how you can lose a vote of the town council because you have the minutes, but there you go. And this was also chains in with the town's forensic audit that you have an issue there. You have a number of issues with this.
If you could summate and like get to the core of what you're trying to get across.
Okay, you have so many acts
There we go.
with this TIF, all right? One after another where you really haven't followed the statute. There is no way you can really fix it. There is only one way that I know of you can fix it, and that's put it to a vote of the town under omissions and corrections. That you can actually go to the town and get a vote to fix these past errors. I mean, that would also include looking at surpluses, where the conceptual plan strictly required that all surpluses go to the general fund. If you don't have a town vote to retain those surpluses, and nobody can find one, if you don't have a town vote to retain, those all should have gone to the general fund. So where you stand right now is all those funds should be going to the general fund unless you have a town vote, and that would be, to correct that. If you can get the town to vote for it. Now, I worry about these things for one reason. I just wanted to make sure you understood all of the underlying things of why I was asking questions to these people, why they were contacting me, and why I was forwarding these questions to you. You have very difficult decisions in front of you with these, all right? But are they fatally flawed? You have to remember, I actually talked to a couple developers and just asked them, you may have a great deal of difficulty getting developers to come in because one of the things they told me was they don't want to get involved in a town squabble. So, look, I'm hoping you'll fix this out. I'm actually hoping nobody will ever contact the Commissioner of Revenue who's currently sitting there and ask him to audit this, because I've been through one of those, and he has the power to order a town to audit this. I'm hoping nobody would file a suit to stop this, because I'm hoping you can resolve it. I think your best bet in this whole thing is, and I know you've talked about it, dissolving the TIFs and going forward. And if you think it's a great idea, start it from scratch, start a new one up. Please don't use the word black bear, because it probably has a bad connotation at this time now. But if you think you should close it up and go forward, then you could actually do a good job and set it up right and set it up so the future.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll move to approval of minutes. Councilor Bentley. Vice Chair Bentley.
Make a motion to approve the April 18th workshop minutes.
Second.
Motion to approve April 18th minutes and a second. Gentlemen, if you'd like to have a conversation, if you could do it outside, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks. Any discussion?
I just have, sorry.
Councilor Levy, go ahead.
I just have one small,
Sorry.
excuse me. Bear with me 1 second, I lost it. It was, what it said was
Mr. Blastos, if you could please take the conversation outside. Thank you.
It said, Counselor Levy noted that when the vote was taken to release the funds, it's the second paragraph.
What page?
Page number?
I'm sorry, page 12.
Thank you.
No addendums and restrictions were placed on the transfer, and the council had to release the funds. What I added to that was based on the fact that the voters voted to utilize the open space money to be used by the school. That was the context of my statement. So, because it doesn't really read that way, so I just thought I'd. Do you want me to repeat? You got it?
Councilor
Thank you.
Branch.
No, that was to make a motion. I'm all set, thanks.
Any other comments or edits? Any more discussion? So, Mr. the vote.
Councilor Wright.
Aye.
Councilor Levy.
Aye.
Councilor Branch.
Aye.
Councilor Carmichael.
Aye.
Councilor Bentley.
Aye.
Chairman Nazaro.
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Councilor Bentley.
Make a motion to approve the April 25th special workshop council minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion? Any edits? Seeing
The date was that
April
last week?
25th.
25th.
Last week.
25th and 26th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing none, I'll administer the vote.
Councilor Wright.
Aye.
Councilor Levy.
I have to abstain, I wasn't there.
Councilor Branch.
Aye.
Councilor Carmichael. Councilor
Aye.
Bentley. Chairman Nazaro.
Aye, motion passes 5-0, one abstention. Next is the town administrator's report.
I'd like to yield to Ms. Benvenuti.
Good evening. In the interest of time, I know you all have my report, have had my report in your packet, so I'm not going to go through it line by line, but I just want to say that we're, at this point in the fiscal year, with 2 months remaining, we're on track with property tax collections being nearly identical to last year at this time. Our revenues are coming in approximately 2% over what last year's revenues were, pretty much right across the board. There is I do need to request a non-public with the council on May 16th, very brief, 10 to 15 minutes on the 2009 tax lien. The state primary election period, I'd like just to call that to everyone's attention, is June 6th to the 15th of this year. Candidates for state representatives and delegates file with the town clerk. And if you don't have any questions about any of those items, I do want to talk about one change that we're going to be embarking on within the next month. Are there any questions about collections or revenues at this point? Okay. I just wanted to make the council aware, as I have done in the past, that we are going to be changing our third-party payment provider that does the services for our residents to be able to pay their bills online, and our point of sale using credit card or debit card at our counter. The company that we have chosen to use is Invoice Cloud. They are one of the most progressive and most leading cutting-edge companies that I have been able to find in the entire Northeast that is going to be provide a far better service to our residents than the current online payment that we have now, which is through Nelnet. It will be completely 100% integrated with our software program that we have, and the biggest thing is that a piece of legislation has passed both the House and the Senate, enabling us to send paperless bills for both water and sewer and property taxes if residents elect to receive their bills in that manner. This company is already positioned. They do this in other New England states that have passed that type of legislation. So by going with them, once the legislation is enacted, we can immediately offer that service, and that's going to, over time, of course, because it takes time, but that's going to lower our costs in moving away from paper bills to electronic bills. And I just, if you have any questions at all, I did provide details about the program. I'd be happy to address those.
Councilor Levy.
Just one quick question. What are we charging if people pay with credit card versus a debit card, please?
2.95% for debit or credit card.
Is the rate the same? Is our cost to the town the same?
There is no cost to the town whatsoever. It's 2.95%. It's charged as a convenience fee. The user, the holder of the card, pays the fee directly to the third-party payment provider.
I understand. What I'm saying is, usually a debit card's less, that's why I'm asking. I was just,
It's 2.95% convenience fee that's charged to the resident, not by the town. There's no the town does not incur any costs.
no, I understand. It's called an interchange rate. They charge.
We're not involved in the interchange rate because we're not the merchant. The third-party payment provider intercedes for us.
Okay. 2.95, huh?
Mm-hmm. The interchange rate will be less. They're making, the company is making
The only
a
reason I'm bringing it up is we're talking about making it convenient for people, to pay, and then, if they pay that way, it's 3 points, which is a lot. You know what I mean? So it's, the debit should be quite a bit less. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up. The debit should be under 1%, and that's why I'm bringing it up. So I don't know if it's worth asking them, but to me, as a citizen, I wouldn't, if we want people to go to paper, so we're not, doing all the mailing and stamps and whatnot, it's sort of a penalty, so to speak.
If they use their bank account, it's a 40-cent charge. So if they pay using their savings account or checking account, it's a 40-cent fee, which would be more in keeping with the 1% that you're talking about as a debit card, because a debit card comes right out of the checking account. So if they use their checking account, they're only paying 40 cents. It's called an e-check.
And obviously, if they just got it in the mail and they sent you a check, there's no charge. That's correct? They just send you a check?
No, there's no charge for us to
Okay.
receive checks or cash.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? I just want it noted for the people at home that Becky went out and obtained legislation that allows for this online billing from the state of Connecticut and was instrumental in the crafting of legislation that is now on the governor's desk. It's passed both houses and he's expected to sign. So she is helping Newmarket be on the cutting edge of this, and we absolutely appreciate all your work for the town and what you're doing for
You're
us
welcome,
and for the
and-
state.
And just to, so we've been doing this, Councilor Levy, for 6 years, and we've been doing it the longest of any town in the state as well. So our residents are, it's been an education process because a convenience fee it's hard to take at first, but people have become accustomed to that. And it's their choice. It's not.
No, I understand.
It's providing them with another option, that's all. Okay? Thank you.
What she's doing. So the town administrator actually just pointed out that the amount that we've actually done in online payments since it started is over $600,000 of online payments in the town this year. Thank you. So thank you for your work, Becky. Next on the agenda is Doug Poole and IT request to purchase.
I got a few things.
Oh.
I just yielded to a moment to her.
I guess we'll let you go.
Couple things, and we've already talked about changing one of the items is we're going to have our interim finance director come in next week to do a municipal auditing accounting 101 program, but Matt, you have the week off, so we'll do that. But I've provided the council a list of other dates for visiting various departments, and we can reschedule. If there's no problems there, I'll make sure that that's all done. Talk to the department heads about it, and have also invited the budget committee to attend at the same time. Couple items of information for everybody out there. There is a flood zone of the Lamprey River. It is going to be a sort of a seminar called "Where is the New 100-Year Floodplain and What It Means for Communities." It's going to be held on January 1st from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Raymond Baptist Church Function Hall in Raymond, which is on 145 Route 27 on Main Street. Anybody who wants to attend, there's a telephone number you can call, 659-9363, So if anybody wants to attend, it's open. You may have heard that DOT, Department of Transportation, is proposing to assess the street lighting on state highways and ultimately discontinue lighting not needed for motorist safety in some communities. I know Epping is one of them that's going to have lights that are going to be removed. The lights are going to be turned off, are found to be unnecessary in accordance with the current state and federal standards. They note that if Newmarket in any way would be affected by this, that they would notify the community and arrange a meeting with us to discuss that, so councilors would have the ability to weigh in whether or not they wish to have the town pick it up or to allow it to be discontinued. There's going to be a road race, actually a cycling race, put on by Local Cycling on June 17th. The event will start in the courtyard at the Mills, and they expect to have between 200 to 400 cyclists participate. It's going to be the first year. Local Sports is working with Lieutenant Jeff Symes of Newmarket PD and has been in contact with Chief Sear to make sure that the coordination of it will take place and make sure it's run as well as the road races that we've had here in town. And the last thing, I put a couple of notices in your mailboxes relative to the newly elected officials' workshops that are coming up, and also a right-to-know meetings that are being held. Both of them are on Saturdays. And lastly, an opportunity for people who might want to do some volunteer work. There is sampling of the Lamprey River this summer. People who are interested in participating in that, the telephone number to call is the same one as the previous one, 659-9363, and this will, I'm assuming, will go through the summer, so if people want to participate in that, they can call 659-9363. That's it.
Great, thank you. Now, Doug Poulin, talking about new IT servers.
Good evening. I tried to get something in your packet. I hope it got in there regarding this. Good. What it's come down to is we've come to the point where I need to replace a couple of servers in our server infrastructure that runs the town's management information services. Becky was talking about the Invoice Cloud software, which will run on the current rec server, but it's going to be a bit of a struggle. We're taking credit cards at the rec department now. I don't want to hit all of these things because we are running a little bit late, but fire department will record all their calls to a server. If we ever need to call up a fire department call, we can call that back. We had an audit done by MRI, I believe it's Management Recruiters International, came in, and they had a technical person who came in, and he said your servers should be replaced every 4 to 5 years. 3 of our servers are 8 years old or more. My goal is to buy 2 and actually replace 3 servers with the purchase of those 2 by sort of stacking, if you will, 2 of the servers on top of 1, having that 1 server do double duty. It's got enough horsepower and it can do it. I talk a little bit about a couple of servers that have failed recently and how hard it's getting to find replacement parts, and eventually there's going to come the time where I'm not going to be able to find a replacement part, although eBay is generally pretty dependable for finding that stuff. Quality's questionable, but it can get you by occasionally. I've looked at leasing, and after about 3 years, the cost to buy has been covered. And I know I can make a server go 6 years. I know MRI says 4 to 5 years, but I know I can make a server go 6 years. But after 3 years of leasing, you've paid to buy it new. And that's about it. I did come up with a cost. I put out quotes. I got, I believe, 8 quotes back, and GovConnection came back with the best quote, just under $12,000. And to give you a little bit of history, we bought a server for the police department, I think 3 years ago, for $14,000. So we bought 1 server for $14,000. I'm proposing to buy 2 for $12,000. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, I'm asking that the money be taken out of capital improvement, what we've put it aside for. So I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilors. Councilor Levy.
Just two quick ones, Doug. Is there any reason the other quotes weren't in the packet?
No, I can get you the quotes, though, certainly.
I was just curious. And how, in the near future, what do you anticipate you're going to need, for upgrades, if any? And if so, what's the dollar amount in your mind?
Upgrades to the servers or replacement
to
of
the
servers?
system. In other words, what I was really wondering is, we're going to do this theoretically tonight. Within the next year or so, do you have I had asked a little while ago, but I never really saw anything. Is there a plan for, oh, I'm sorry.
You were emailed that yesterday. All councilors
Oh,
were
I
emailed
didn't
yesterday.
catch it.
I did do a spreadsheet.
Thank you.
Okay, it's coming your way, of what I envision to be future CIP funding.
Okay.
And that's partially due thanks to Matt, who I sat down with and clarified my head on CIP and how it all works and how it should work. Before, this year I didn't fund CIP at all because I frankly couldn't make heads or tails of it. So Matt sat down with me, made it clear, and so that I feel is a decent plan to move forward with.
Okay, just real quick. So it's, you're, just so I'm reading this right, is it 20,000 the next year, or?
I think if you look at the top,
Yeah.
it's recommended that we add 20,000 each year.
Okay,
And then the
so,
withdrawals are below that. The proposed withdrawals are below that.
so 20, 40, and then 2014, 15, you have 10, correct?
Yes. At that point, I think there would be enough in there that we wouldn't need to pop in a full 20. We would back off and just fund 10 that year.
Okay. And this, what's in the CIP now, Doug, do you know?
Yeah, 46,000.
So many numbers. 46,000 right now.
Right
So
now.
So we're pretty much going to use it up. Now, do we have a plan like each year? How much?
That's what you're looking at in that
Yeah, and
spreadsheet.
and what do we anticipate every year going into the CIP?
It's always different. The CIP committee will probably start in the next month or so, and the different departments will come in and make a presentation to the committee itself, and they'll discuss the needs for it, and then the committee itself will then determine what is going to be recommended to the budget committee and the council.
But like, in general, do we put 10 away for Doug a year? Is it
That's forecasting 20 each year.
20 grand a year?
20 grand a year. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Councilor Branch.
Mr. Chairman, we take a motion?
I'll take the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to authorize the town to purchase 2 IBM X-Series servers from, it appears to be Government Connection, for a price of $11,789.88 to come from the Capital Reserve Fund. If I'm not mistaken, that's the proper way to phrase it.
Motion and a second, any discussion? I have a related piece of discussion that may or may not fit right here, but whenever someone comes to us with CIP, like, requests, I think it would help all the counselors if we had a standard packet of what elements need to go in the packet for us to see.
Okay.
The conditions, everything else, the long-term, and the CIP plan, like he has here, I understand it, I see where it's going, but all of them should look the same. And we should never have to, like, orient ourselves to a piece of paper, try to figure out.
heads or tails of this.
Yeah, where, what's what. So I just, if we could come up with a standard one.
Yep.
And move forward using that. Sorry, you're the
fine.
victim at the table right now, but.
What is it when, I don't even want to bother with, it says recreation, 6,000, am I?
Hold on a second, Councilor Branch with the.
Just to be clear, I do believe we still need to have a public hearing on this, correct?
I believe you do.
Just to move it to.
Okay, just want to make sure, right.
All right, go ahead, Councilor.
What's recreate, I mean,
What you're looking at, and I sent that to Administrator Winowski, and I said it's just a lot of thought process right now, so I'm naming servers that need to be replaced. So when you see recreation, I'm saying the recreation server needs to go. It's done its time, and it needs to go. So when you see names like that, that's all, I'm pointing out the names of servers. There's fire, there's accounting, there's, document management, those kind of things.
you should add the word server out.
So there's Any more discussion? So there's a motion on the table to move it forward to a public hearing. Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Counsel Wright?
Aye.
Counsel Levy?
Aye.
Counsel LeBranch?
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael?
Aye.
Counsel Bentley?
Aye.
Chairman Nazaro?
Aye, motion passes 6-0. Thanks.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, Dan Hardy to present us on the Sky Bridge over Route 108.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council. I'm here this evening to request authorization for the town to enter into a contract with Du Bois King for $52,400. This is to be funded partially out of the town's Transportation Enhancement Grant, and I'll quickly pass around an overview, if you will, of the financing plan for the Transportation Enhancement Grant. Currently, the project is estimated at $550,000, and according to the original budget, there was about $20,000 set aside for preliminary engineering. And of course, these are federal funds which are provided to us at an 80% level. The federal/state grant we received was $40,000, and of that needs to be matched by a 20% match. And funding for that, the total local match is $110,000, and that has been split 50-50 between the town TIF district, and was included in last year's budget, to my understanding, or this past fiscal year budget. And Newmarket Mills, the developer of the mill project, will be providing the other percentage of the match to make the total project cost of $550,000. As part of this process, we're required by federal regulations to go through a competitive qualification-based process in hiring our design engineer. And the first step in this process is to do a feasibility study. And last October, we sent out a request for qualifications, put it in the newspaper, and solicited proposals from qualified engineers in the area. We received 4 proposals, and we set up a consultant selection committee made up of Rick Malasky, myself, the planner from the Regional Planning Commission who's been working with us on the grant program, and Mr. Chimberg's representative, Jeff Spencer. And we reviewed the qualification packages we received, and we set up a matrix, if you will, to be able to objectively evaluate them. And we invited the 4 firms that we received proposals from to come in and make presentations. And all the applicants, if you will, were well qualified for the position. I think based on our evaluation, Du Bois King came to the forefront because of their extensive experience. They're a well-established firm here in the Vermont, New Hampshire region. They're civil engineers. They have extensive bridge design, and they're working with DeStefano Architects out of Portsmouth and Ward Geotech out of Bow, and they've worked on similar transportation enhancement projects. They've designed pedestrian bridges for both the Manchester and Nashua Parks and Recreation, and they've worked on numerous pedestrian bridge projects throughout the region. As part of this contract, we negotiated a scope of services which will involve preparation of a base map, doing a conceptual design, and we've included a pre-design component, which will be a public design charrette, if you will, where we'll solicit input from citizens of Newmarket and stakeholders in town who have an interest in this project, be it NCDC, the local historical society, to get input from them in the design. And then we'll go forward with the feasibility studies, which will then be finalized in a final engineering report. And as part of this process, we were asked to do an independent government estimate, and the folks at the Department of Transportation did that for us, and that was used as the basis to determine whether or not the costs that Du Bois King had provided us were reasonable or not. And our cost came in well below. Their estimate was about $77,000 for the design component to the project. So with that, I guess I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I would recommend that the town hire Du Bois King because of their expertise and experience. And we look forward to getting started with the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this point.
Councilor LaBranche.
Diane, in reference to the additional cost for the preliminary engineering,
Yes.
I've noticed that we factored in an additional $8,095.
That is correct.
And we are attempting to take this from the Municipal Transportation
Right.
Fund.
And that will come to the CIP this coming cycle.
Right, I just want to be certain that that's an allowed use.
It is an allowed use, and of course, this is a $5 fee that is surcharged on motor vehicle registrations, and at this time, it's a capital reserve account, if you will. At this time, there's over $300,000 available in that account for eligible projects. And, you know, the hope is that we can go through the CIP process and gain their support and come before the town council for the additional funds next year to come up with the necessary match, if you will, for the additional funds. The additional funds that, which I mentioned to you at our last meeting, that DOT has requested on our behalf is about $61,000 in additional state, federal highway transportation money, and of course, we would have to come up with the match. I have spoken with 50% of the local match, let me make that clear, which is 10%. And I have spoken to Mr. Chimberg, and they're more than happy to provide their share, which would be the same amount. So we're hoping that with this $630,000 that we have available, that we'll be able to complete the project. And at this point, we're about 6 months behind our original schedule. We're probably looking at June of next year for a completion date. We were hoping to do construction this construction season, and obviously we're a little bit behind, so that's not going to happen. But I think that's what our game plan is, and we're looking forward to getting started with the project.
Councilor Wright.
Yeah, some people ask me, I don't know if it's too early, if they've decided, will this be ADA compliant, this?
Yes, it is. All projects that are federally funded need to comply with the
So,
Americans with
elevator on both
Disability.
sides?
There will be, well, there'll be an elevator on the tower, if you will, that will be constructed as part of this grant. And of course, the mill has an elevator, which will provide access to all floors within the mill building.
Is that it, Council? Yes.
Yeah.
Councilor Levy.
Just a couple, because I hadn't seen this sheet. This didn't get emailed to, did it?
No,
Excuse me. So based on this, it says the preliminary engineering was 19,000 and it was revised to 100?
That's the state revised it based on their experience with similar projects. The cost estimate that we received was prepared by Chimberg Builders. It was used for the grant application.
Yeah.
And it was done in 2009. And of course, what they weren't figuring in, and this is a federal project, so there's additional costs that wouldn't apply to a private project. For instance, it requires compliance with Davis-Bacon federal wage rates, which means that there has to be monitoring, and there is also a requirement that there be full-time resident engineering, which they didn't anticipate. So, I mean, the costs, I think, are all reasonable, and, you know, the folks at the state wouldn't have gone forward on our behalf to get the additional money if they didn't feel that it was appropriate.
All right, well, just so you know, it looks like, and the construction's going to go up to 630,000?
That's correct.
So that's going to be about, I don't know, 13% more than was estimated.
Right.
See, it just seems like the engineering is very high.
Well,
for the
don't forget
construction.
our budget. I mean, the contract is $52,000, so there's going to obviously be surplus funds. My hope is that those funds could be available if there's a contingency needed for construction, but we would have to work out the details of that with Federal Highway.
And that 100 covers, because I noticed it said in the assumptions, excuse me, it said the design and construction services are not included. I'm assuming that includes that.
It includes preliminary engineering, and it includes, you know, the design aspects of it. The construction engineering, the actual resident engineering that you're referring to, would come out of the construction line item.
So it's going to be in addition to that 100, huh?
No. we have a contract for $52,000. That's what we're requesting at this point.
All right.
Okay, we're not, that's, the revised budget is DOT's budget. That's not necessarily my budget at this
All
point.
right.
So we came in under their budget. They said it would cost us $77,000 to do the preliminary engineering, and our consultant came in well below that, $52,400. So we were pleased. We felt we did a good job, and we negotiated with them, and there were some things, for instance, some boring work that had been done for the Main Street project that we believe we'll be able to use to lower costs. There was obviously, a lot of extensive survey work was done as the Main Street project, so we don't have to duplicate those work tasks.
Just the last thing I'll say is, just in the spirit of negotiating, it appears that they want to add 12% commission to their subcontractors, and it's on page 40. And this was just my notation. I think that's not reasonable, and it should be a pass-through. And when I was on the PDA, once in a while we'd see a contract that had, a commission. So just so it's clear, they're going to hire DeStefano for architects, et cetera, and they've got other people they're hiring. They're going to add 12% onto that, their cost, which I think should absolutely be a pass-through. I would not pay a 12% commission to them personally for that. And and they did the same thing with their reimbursables. They want to add 12% to their reimbursables, meaning for their food, car use, et cetera. And all that stuff should be exactly what it costs. It should not be one dime more, whether it's our money, the state's money, the federal money. But that's just my take on it.
Councilor Bench, you've already spoken one time, right? Because I want to say something.
That's helpful to know, Mr. Levy. Thank you.
Pardon?
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I would argue that 12% overhead and fee, the fee we can have a discussion about, but overhead just for like the G&A of someone, I'm not concerned about. 12% around reimbursables, to me, having any sort of fee on reimbursables, but that's just me. That being said,
Wait, I didn't hear what you said.
having any fee or admin costs around reimbursables makes no sense. Having that around labor, I'd have a conversation about. I may not agree with you on the labor. I think having some sort of overhead costs money to administer individuals. So to me, that makes sense. The fee on reimbursables, I agree with you, does not make sense. But that being said, $100,000 budget and we come in at $52,000. It's good for the residents of this town and
Yes.
taxpayers in general.
Absolutely.
Councilor LaBranche.
Will you entertain a motion? I make a motion to approve the expenditure of $5,240 for scope of work to be completed by Dubois and King on preliminary engineering task 1 through 5.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
Can we just amend where it's coming from, just so, do we need to, no?
It's coming from the downtown TIF. Downtown TIF.
Right, I would just think we would want that part of it, just so.
Is that a friendly amendment?
It's very
No,
clear.
that's a-
Sure, that's fine.
Second.
Motion is second, discussion.
Can I?
Yeah, Councilor Levy, go
I
ahead.
hate to do this, but there was just one other thing with respect to the contract that I didn't think was reasonable. It says ownership of documents.
What page are you on?
I'm sorry, 41.
You're not going to see 41. It's page,
It was ownership of documents.
Yeah.
It said essentially that they own the documents, and meaning they, the Dubois and King.
Mm-hmm.
We will retain all pertinent records related to the services performed for 6 years, et cetera. And that's probably normal protocol, but then they said here that they will make them available to us, and they want to potentially charge us for that, reasonable retrieval and reproduction costs. And I don't know, when I looked at that, I was like, it bugged me. I don't know how much it is, but
I can get some more information.
Yeah, I mean, I think-
There is some federal language, by the way, that needs to be replaced with this, and the gentleman from the state is reviewing the contract now, and
If you brought
I
those-
believe he's going to be coming forward with some recommendations
Okay.
along those lines as
Yeah.
well.
Okay. I'll
Because
leave
these
it.
are federal funds. I mean, they should be publicly owned documents.
So we're locked in no more than 50 grand plus, right?
At
That's
this
it?
point.
52,400.
And that's it?
For this scope of work, unless there's an expansion in the scope, which of course we'd come back and talk with you about that.
When you say this scope, like, what's the worst-case scenario?
It's expansion of scope. Is that exactly what you mean, expansion of scope, or something requires?
If there is some addition, if we do some excavation or some test borings yield that there's some archaeological issue, and we are required to do a archaeological survey that's going to cost another
We're going to find the
$3
original
grand,
Timberland shoe.
we're going to have to come back. And this happens. I mean, this is with many of these projects. Folks from Portsmouth can tell you about that. But just to, so that money is, and that's why, the $100,000 does provide some additional cushion in the event we run into that kind of a situation.
Okay.
Motion on the table. Any more discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Administrator, vote.
Counsel Wright.
Aye.
Counsel Levy.
Aye.
Counsel LeBranch.
Aye.
Counsel Carmichael.
Aye.
Counsel Bentley.
Aye.
Chairman Nazar.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
I have one other item. The Zoning Board of Adjustment met last evening on an application. It was for the town's application for the animal crematorium. And we ran into a situation where we didn't have enough voting members to act on the application. One of the zoning board members was unable to make the meeting. Two of the zoning board members had to recuse themselves for different reasons. One was in a butter, and one had a financial interest and wanted to abstain. So we only had, at the meeting last night, 2 members who could vote. In order for a variance to pass by the RSAs, you have to have 3 votes. So the zoning board has asked me to appeal to you folks to see if perhaps at your next meeting, if there's some folks in the public who are interested in coming forward, that we could have some zoning board members appointed. We need 2 zoning board members to round out the board so that we have 5 voting members who can act on the application. And of course, this is a project that the town has an interest in, so we obviously want to make sure that it moves forward expeditiously. The zoning board has rescheduled their public hearing on this for May 21st, and we're hoping that on the meeting on the 16th, we might have some names to present for you to consider to appoint to the zoning board for that purpose.
Vice Chair.
Are there any questions?
Did you speak to someone who expressed an interest running today or yesterday, or?
We did receive 1 application in today, but I haven't spoken to anyone myself. I don't know if Ed, maybe you have, since
No,
you
I
and I
haven't.
spoke earlier.
So we already have one, right?
There was a person that called up and said that they'd like to be considered, but what I was going to suggest is that if people are interested, fill out a form, submit it. It's a temporary appointment, so I think it'd be the best way to go, as opposed to getting bits and pieces of paper here and there. So, and if everybody can get them in by next Friday that are interested in serving on the ZBA, that would be great.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you very
Not
much
this Friday, but the following Friday.
for considering that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So after they vote yea or nay for the moratorium, or the moratorium?
Crematorium.
Crematorium, jeez. We should have a moratorium on the crematorium. That's it? They're gone after that, or is?
Just for
okay.
that one,
Okay.
yes. Temporary appointment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The council doesn't have an issue with it. There's been a water issue that's come up. That came up today that if we'd like to add to, I'd like to have added to the agenda, because I don't even have all the facts on this. If Sean, any councilor have an issue with that? Okay. No? Sean? Please enlighten all of us.
Good evening. Yes, an issue came up today. I received a phone call today. I have not received any paper work on it yet. I'm expecting to get it the beginning of next week. What happens every 3 years, the town receives a sanitary survey, and what that is the Department of Environmental Services Water Division part comes down and looks at our water system. They look at the records, they look at the infrastructure, they look at operations, they're looking to make sure that we're operating our system in a safe manner and that it's able to meet the needs of the town. From that, I received a phone call from Rick Skarinka, which is the representative that did the sanitary survey, and he indicated that he'd be recommending the town for a moratorium on building. The moratorium, if it goes through, will not affect anything that's currently being in construction at this point in time. We're due to have a meeting with them next week to discuss what the details of it would be. What the moratorium, the reason for it is some of the things that he highlighted for me. As he said, back in 1998, the EPA did a study and said we were overpumping our two wells, the Bennett and Sewell, and recommended that we use an alternative source. In 2004, there was an engineering report done, and it said we needed to improve the surface water treatment plant to have an adequate water supply. At that point, we were discontinuing the use of the water surface plant because it did not meet safe water quality standards. It also, the reason was because it was, the backwash was really messing up the operation of the wastewater treatment facility, which was making us go over on our permit. So at that point in time, the town chose to go in the direction of looking for groundwater, which we did. In 2006, another engineering report said that we needed to increase our storage. Again, back in 2002, we had passed a warrant article to construct a new water tank, but we never constructed it. There was, and then in 2010, there was an engineering report that said that we needed more water supply and storage. And then there was other improvements that need to be done. The last item, I think, that put them over the top was they provided SRF funding for the waterline project this year and for the Macintosh well, which was a low-interest loan and had about $830,000 in maximum grant monies that we wouldn't have to pay back. I think I got the feeling that they felt that if we couldn't get something passed with grant money and incentives like a carrot, that they needed to come down and say, you need to do something. I don't think they forced the issue in the past several years because we were actually moving forward with the well. We've got it permitted. We were doing all these things, but they feel like we've come to a standstill. So I don't have the final details. I just figured right at this point that we should get this out as soon as possible to the counselors and to the people so they know what's happening. What would happen from here is we'd sit down with the DES and come up with an action plan that have milestones in it. So we would come up with a plan. It would have certain milestones that we'd have to meet. If we meet the milestones, nothing happens. If we don't meet the milestones, then he said an administrative order would be coming with fines. Any questions? I imagine there's a lot.
Councilor Wright. Yeah, what do you figure would be the total amount? I'm sure it's hard to say, but a guesstimate.
Total amount?
To get everything, what kind of money are we looking at to solve these deficiencies?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that we need to move forward with the Macintosh well, which
Yeah.
I think, I know Ed and I have been discussing that, the town administrator, sorry.
Yeah.
And I know we were going to push to do a pilot after July 1st, which is approximately a $150,000 item.
Yeah.
That would at least tell us what the best treatment or what's best to do with the well.
Right.
Which would give us a chance to say, all right, this is the direction we're going to go, and then would allow us to do a bond vote in March.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel would be the most appropriate action plan.
Yeah. Now, what would it take, is there any way to get this Macintosh up and running at 100,000 is to blend the water?
There are,
We were talking about a treatment for it.
well,
I mean, is that a viable option at this point? It's like
Yes.
almost so we can say, okay, this is what we propose, it can be done, to give us some breathing room and show good faith?
well, I think we're getting ahead of ourselves on that. I think we really just need to sit down with them. The DES has looked at the water quality coming out of that well,
Yeah.
and they say you should at least blend it.
Yeah.
That it's not a source, but it's not an independent source if you're blending it.
Yeah.
So if you, basically, the rule for, the 10-state standard rule for why we're getting a deficiency is if you take your largest water source offline,
Yep.
can you still supply the town with an average day water supply?
Yeah.
And we cannot.
Yeah.
So I think if we show to them, if we do this study and we show to them that this is the best thing for the town, they will buy into it.
Yeah.
It's just they want to keep us to move, they want us to move forward.
I guess my follow-up question, can we use any of this water fund money to help?
Right now, there is $361,000 in the CIP. There'll be another $360,000 put in next year for a total of $720,000. So that money will be available. Obviously, any money.
Yeah, what about the million we have?
Well, any money's of it
Yeah.
that can help.
Yeah.
I mean, any money can help. I'm not going
Okay.
to say. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councilor Bentley.
So they said, forgive me, Sean, two things. We need the ability to store more, which maybe means a new tower,
Yeah.
and we need the ability to make more.
More supply. It means have a well or have a surface water plant. Have something that if you lose your largest source, that you have the ability to supply the town with one average day's worth of water.
That's all. And this has nothing to do with the firefighting abilities, like when our insurer said you have less than 50% of what you, this is
That's-
separate?
Well, that also plays into, because he said, well, what are you doing if there's a fire?
Thank you. Councilor Levy.
Just with respect to the $150,000 for the testing of the MAC,
Yeah.
how long before we'll have the results of that? Is it 6 months? Is it 9 months?
It would probably be, we'd have to kick it into high gear in July. I have to go back and look at, we had a schedule laid out for that. And
Roughly, just so we have an idea.
we were hoping to have everything in by October or November. But that's the fast track. I would say more like, it's probably going to be closer to November, December.
It's about 6 months, give or take.
Yeah, it's something that we could possibly fast track. I have to sit down with the engineer and really figure out how we can do this. But the main goal of what the pilot is to run the well like we would run it normally, and see what we could get out of it.
Thank you.
Is that it, Councilor Levy?
Yes, thank you.
Councilor Branch.
Sean, I don't believe you were around in '98.
I was here, but I wasn't in the water side.
Okay. Well, you know, I've been sitting here for 6 years, and quite honestly, I'm shocked that this is the first that I've heard of the 2004 engineering report, the 2006 engineering report, and the 2010 engineering report, and the fallback on it. And I guess, you know, if the information was there and I missed it, you know, shame on me. But my biggest concern is the fact that had we known a lot of this stuff the last 2 years, these votes that missed by percentage points certainly would have gone the other way. We currently have, the only thing that I think we could do without a special town meeting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, maybe Mr. Winowski can correct me, but the only thing that we would have the right to do at this point without a special town meeting is to construct the water tank, because we have the bonding authority for that.
Yes.
I wouldn't jump out in front.
Well, no, but I'm just saying that, you know, that's the only thing that we could do without jumping through hoops
Yes.
within the town.
Yes. Absolutely, that is the only thing, correct right now that you could do.
Now, I'm just going to go out there a little bit, and I know that this appears to be two different entities, but this wouldn't have anything to do with the coalition, would it?
It does not. It does not. It really doesn't. I know it seems like it, but it doesn't. It absolutely does not. So, and I can say that with honesty. One of the biggest thing that Rick asked me, he asked me because he said this is a political nightmare to be in the spot where he is. He was very concerned of where we are with the wastewater treatment facility and how we could work together to make this happen without, I think we can make this happen within what we have. I think we can move forward after July 1st because the year is up. And get our ducks in a row in June and hit the ball running so that we could possibly have something for March, I'm hoping, to put in front of the voters, and that would be acceptable to the state. I'm not guaranteeing it will, but I think as long as they see us that we're making an honest effort, I think that we can get this done.
And follow up. Do you believe there'd be any SRF funds available? Probably not, right?
Probably not. I will tell you that the Macintosh well is the next on the list to receive money if some people don't vote some things through like we did last year.
Okay.
So there is a possibility, but it's not as much money as what it was last year. The money's drying up.
Thank you.
Sean, this may be more of a question for the town administrator.
Yeah.
If we were to leverage some of that $1 million that Councilor Wright was talking about, we would have to move that into a CIP, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Councilor Levy.
That was along my line.
Yeah.
We could theoretically do, depending upon, well, at least it'd be, depends on how you want to look at it. Depending upon how these resolutions play out, we could use some of that money and we could vote within the council, like we were talking about, like we need a unanimous vote, with the mechanism that Matt brought up. I think that's what I heard.
Keep in mind, without a special town meeting with a town vote, we can't do anything till after July 1st.
No, I understand after July, I'm saying.
That's one thing, and the whole purpose of me coming here is to get out in front of it, so everybody knows what's going on, so that when we actually have this meeting next week with DES and flush out the details, we'll come back here with some more information.
Sewer term. I know we're talking goals.
Got both ends.
We're talking goals later and strategies to achieve our goals, but not to jump the gun on that, but water's got to be on that list, high on that list.
That's been 4 years.
Any other questions for Sean?
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
Maybe later.
Keep us appraised.
Yep.
Next item on the agenda is appointment to Efficiency Committee.
We need to appoint Al.
Yes, Al is our has been acting as a representative to the Efficiency Committee. Councilor LaBranch.
Does he get out of filling out an application? I don't see one. Is there an application? Did he fill out an application?
Yeah.
Don't forget, the Efficiency Committee had two individuals, which is the chair and vice chair.
Yeah.
Okay,
so we're doing it within our board.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nomination?
I will accept the nomination.
I'll nominate Al Zink for a position on the Efficiency Committee.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion?
That's what he gets for
Since it's for a position to a committee from us, are there any other nominations? If there are no other nominations, Mr. Administrator, the vote.
Council Wright.
Aye.
Council Levy.
Aye.
Council LaBranch.
Aye.
Council Carmichael. Aye. Council Bentley.
Aye.
Chairman Nazaro.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0.
Just as a follow-up, councilors really don't need to be appointed. You can certainly apply to the committee if you'd like to as a citizen. Just want to put it out there, if anybody wants to jump on board.
On the efficiency or?
Al's not
committee?
here, so I've got to do the spiel tonight.
Okay, yes. Other people in the community, please consider joining the
Please,
efficiency
yes.
committee.
Phil, I don't mind.
Say again?
I don't mind.
Don't mind what?
Efficiency Committee.
Oh, great.
Oh.
Yep.
Good.
Great. Thank you very much, Councilor.
It was in the spiel. You gotta get the lingo down.
Next